All right, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome back once again to another super duper exciting episode of me fumbling around with stuff until something starts working. So, today, be frank, don't know what I want to do, but I have ideas what I want to do. So, that's a start at least. One thing in particular I am considering doing is, well, I am thinking about, trying to rig something today. There's also a new guy who I'm thinking about watching some whose tutorials on how to make some stuff. And yeah, his name is, scroll up here, Grant Abbott. It's a 3D modeling pro, it would seem. So I'm going to see what this is all about. Oh, and I had a discussion with my good friends last night about sorry, I'm getting distracted. About the models and what I'm doing. And they actually seem to really like my what's the word I'm looking for here? They really enjoyed my little concept arts I made last night. You know, the ones during the board meeting yesterday. And however, she made a good point in that they feel as though, like the 3D model I made, not the art, the 3D model is missing a bit of the whimsy that the artwork was showing off. You know, I have a little whimsical, but the 3D model wasn't quite showing that. I mean, it's cute. Don't get me wrong, it's cute and it looks great, I think, personally. But it's missing that kind of like little extra bit of charm to it, you know? But as for what that charm is, or how I could convey it properly, I don't really know. So I need to like look over these and kind of figure out what I want to do with that. Give me 1 second. There we go. Anyways, so one thing I was showing her was my little moveset sheet I had for this little guy. Let me move it on over. Ta-da! There we go. Move it on over. Let's see. Moveset for the little guy. Right here. So, you see, he's got the silly factor to him, but he's kind of missing that in his actual model. I don't know how to describe it. I feel like it's there, but it's like just barely something's missing, you know? So I'd like to fiddle around with this and figure out what's going on here. That is not. Oh, that's the rotate. This is the grab. I'm curious about this. Hold on. Do. Hmm. Let's see. Curious. But this is a separate model from my actual like file, so if he goes wrong here, I could just reset it. He's too fat. I like him fat. How about we do scale specifically on this axis? Fuck. That's an easy fix, but still. Scale X. Feels more like a potato now. Can I like bring this in as like a reference image? As if I do nothing. Why is this here? The fuck off my screen. Scale it out this way and scale it out this way. Yeah, I kind of like that a little bit. Let's scale all this down some, see how that works. Awooga! Sorry. Fuck, where did my mouse go? Awooga. Okay. Excuse me. Yikes. Alright, okay, now I'll bring these two back. Gee. What if I just click? What is that? That's not scaling at all. Right on. Okay, let's just try this. Bam. Yes. Okay, what's happening here? Back off. There we go. Actually, let me do this. I'm gonna take this. Why? Non-object, that's why. Okay, so I'm gonna scale. And that makes it that way. Okay, now let's try. Mm-hmm. Maybe I could just... And then... I think his overall head size is a tiny bit smaller. Okay, so first of all, Bam Bam. Wait, I should do this. There we go. Okay. That's how to do with like an entirely other thing. That's not even my account. Let's see. Yay! Yay! Mm. I did that astonishingly quick. So stuff. Mm. Do, 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 do. Mm. Yeah. Uh, mm. There you go. This is stupid. Okay, so since we've had that pretty locked in for right now, I'm going to say this over the thing. Actually, gonna bring him down some. Not what I meant to do. Oh my gosh. Oosh. Yes, so there. Perfect. Okay. Let's see. The fuck is this? Yeah, it's all short and stout again. On. Oh. Sorry about that. Good lord. I just fucking do this. That's not right. Why should not change? There we go. Do, 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 do. Mhm. Yeah, okay, so let's go ahead and take them all. There we go. Yeah. Now that we have that out of the way, more or less. Let's see if we can find that one video. I saw this. Get the fuck out of my taskbar. Uh. Sorry, I'm just trying to find some good things to watch. I just saw it. I'm just like, what the heck? Yeah, I want to see this
In this
one.
video, I'm going to show you how you can rig your character using the Rigify add-on that ships with Blender, and it's a relatively easy process. This is a continuation of the tutorial for making low-poly PlayStation-style characters. If you want to download this character to follow along, then check the links in the description, and you can find the previous tutorials there as well. And if you like my content, then there's lots of links to similar courses which are more detailed and methodical, especially my animation course if you want to animate your character. So let's rig our character. So we've got our basic character here, and the first thing I need to do is add my Rigify rig. Now notice that my 3D cursor is up the top here, so it's best to have it in the world center, assuming that your character is also in the world center. So I'll press Shift S, that will bring up my cursor pie menu, and I can bring the cursor to world origin just here. So you can see it in the middle there. Now before adding the Rigify rig,
How do you do that?
to world origin just here. So you can see it in the middle there. The character is also in the world center. So I'll press Shift S, that will bring up my cursor pie menu, and I can bring the cursor to world origin just here. So you can see it in the middle there. Now before adding the Rigify rig, you need to enable the add-on. You go up to Edit, Preferences. Under Add-ons, you should be able to search for Rigify here and just tick it to enable it. Once that's ticked, you can close this down, and when you press Shift A to add or go up to the Add menu up here, under Armature, you should see some extra armatures. So we've got the Rigify Meta Rigs just here, and the human one is what we want to add. There are some other ones, there's some animals as well, which are very useful, and there's some basic ones just to give you a really Rigify Meta Rigs just here, and the human one is what we want to add. There are some other ones, there's some animals as well.
So I go here. Oh my gosh. That is haunting.
Which are very useful, and there's some basic ones just to give you a really basic rig, but the human one up here is the one we want, so I can add that in, and you should...
Let's get the basic one actually. Today, Armature. There's a cute one. That's better for what we need.
Should see it add in like this. So we want to resize it to our character. Now it's best to do this in edit mode, but I'll show you what happens if you do it in object mode. So I'll go to front view with one on my numpad, or you can use the Cartesian coordinates up here. I can scale it up so it roughly matches my character, somewhere around about there. Now remember, I did that in object mode. That's important for later on. It's also tricky to see the bones. You can come down to the
is my character actually not heading face on? Whoops. Well, to me he was. Well, shit. Hold on. View, bam. Rotate. fun. How to center. How to did I just there we go. Haha. There we go. That's good. No, I'm actually in the proper direction now. So if I add in this, there you go. It should line up properly now.
Object data properties here. I'll just bring up this menu, and under viewport display we can turn on in front so we can always see our bones from whatever angle we are. Go back to front view though, and now I want to match up my rig to my character, so I'll go to edit mode. So that's edit mode up here, and it's really helpful to turn on the X symmetry before you start modifying the shape, so I'll turn that on there. And now I can start moving my bones into position. Something that's quite useful if I zoom into the arm and move my 3D cursor now to the shoulder bone up here, I can press the period key. That brings up my transform pivot point menu. You can also find that in the middle here, and I'll change it to 3D cursor. The default is the median point, just there, but I'll change it to 3D cursor. Now if I select these bones and press R to rotate, it will rotate around that 3D cursor, which is quite helpful. The period key on your keyboard is the shortcut for that, and you do often want to change between bounding box center or median point to the 3D cursor.
I was just
So
saying,
I'll
what's
go back
for
to the
it?
median point, select my end bones here for the hand and pull them into position. Elbow needs a little bit of adjusting there, and that's great. Let's go to side view now. I'll bring the elbow back, bring the shoulder back, and again I'll select the hand and move that into position. Now for a low poly character like this that has joint fingers, I can remove some of these fingers. You do need to be a bit careful in Rigify which bones you remove, because it can cause problems when generating the full rig. I'm going to keep this middle set here, so I'll go from this hand bone here down to the bottom here by holding down Control and delete bones. Same for this one, and same for this one. You must make sure you get the hand bone as well, which is the one at the top, as well as all the finger bones. So I'll select these ones and move them across slightly. And positioning the fingers can be quite awkward, so I'd have to go to front view, line them up, side view and line them up. What's a bit easier is if we turn snapping on, and the snapping mode, if we change it to volume, that will snap to the center of the volume of any object. So if I press G to grab, move that into the end there, you can see right in the middle because it's snapped to the middle of this point in the object. So I'll just move these into position. So G to grab, and oh, be careful of that. If I just left click on this and move it, it disconnects that bone. We don't want that. That's really important to keep these connected. So box select those and move those into position. I'll just move these around now. These might look like they're jumping all over the place. So this is the end finger. This is actually the hand bone, so that can come back in here. And this one is the start of the thumb just there. So that makes a little bit more sense now. And I'll move this one into here and this one up there. So there's my hand bone in position for this character. If you've got fingers, then you can actually set them up with all the finger bones. And because I've got X symmetry on, that's happening on the other side. So let's set up the legs now. We'll start with side view and just bring them back, so G then Y. So I'll turn snapping off at this point, we don't need it on anymore. G then Y, and move the ankle bone to position, the knee bone into position, move these ones forwards for the toes. This bone here needs to go right to the bottom corner just there. And in front view, I'll obviously move these across, so G then X, move those across. This bone needs to be as wide as your foot, because that's the foot roll as it's called. And then these need to move into position, and these ones as well. Okay, so we're almost there. We have got this big problem and big mess of the face just here though. My character hasn't got any facial animations, so I can again delete all these. So all the ones at the front, make sure you don't get the head bone here, so I'll delete those. And the ears just here, delete those. And there is an extra bone just in here. You can't see it. If I alt click on this, you can see there's face, and we need to get rid of that face bone as well. Otherwise we'll get some errors when we generate the rig. I'll just select this one to this one and G then Y, move that back slightly. Oh, that's another one where it's connected, so just be careful of that. Make sure we select that as well. G then Y. Any bones that are connected like that, you need to make sure they stay connected. Otherwise, again, you'll have problems when you generate the rig. So you can see it's all looking like it's in place at the moment. Just have a good look around, and I think we're there. Okay, so it's all working. It's a really good idea to save at this point. So I'm going to quickly save my work. So now I need to generate my actual rig that I'm going to use that has all the extra controllers. But before I do that, remember, if I go back to object mode and press N on my keyboard and go to item, remember I scaled my rig in object mode, so the scale isn't quite set to 1. That means if I go to my object data properties, scroll down to the generate rig button. If I generate it now, you can see that the rig is slightly undersized. That's its original position. So I'll undo that, and I need to apply this scale. I can press Ctrl A to set or apply the scale, and you can see that change to 1. Now when I scroll down and go to generate rig, it generates the rig of the right size. So if I go back to my outliner up here, and I'll just scroll down to the bottom, you can see there are now 2 rigs. The meta rig, that's the original that I moved my bones into position, and my new rig, which is the actual one with all the cool controllers. So the meta rig, I can actually hide. So I'll hide that. You can actually delete it even. And the rig here is the one that I want to use. So now I can select all my objects. If you've got a single character, you just select your character, and then the rig has to be selected last. So that's the active object. That's the one we're parenting to. I can now press Ctrl P, and you can find that menu up in Object, Parent, and then there is with automatic weights just there. That's the one we want. That means the weight painting will be set up for us. And now I should be able to select my rig, go into pose mode, and select one of my bones. I'll talk about what they do in a second, and press R to rotate, and you can see it's hooked up. But there's a slight problem that the leg is moving with the arm here. I'll right click to cancel that movement and just check some other areas. So down here, and the right leg is moving a bit with the left leg here. So there's a little bit of weight painting issues that we need to tidy up. But before I do, let's just explain what the different bones are. First of all, I'll scroll down, and under the viewport display, I'll turn on in front so we can see them all. There's lots of different colors of bones on your rig. The purple one is the root bone, so there's only one of those, and that will move around your whole character. The orange ones are for fingers, and you can actually press S to scale your fingers in like this. And of course R to rotate, and even G to grab if you want to stretch your hand around. The green and the red are IK and FK. The red being IK,
FK,
which stands for Inverse Kinematics,
the
and you control that by the end bone of the sequence. So this is controlling the entire arm up to the shoulder there. And if I select that IK bone at the end, that's what it defaults to. I can actually switch this. With that bone selected, I can switch across to FK, and you can see that moving position. And now I can select the green bones and press R to rotate those, and you can see them moving around with forward kinematics, and that's controlled almost in the reverse direction. So the top bone is controlling the ones below it. I'll go back to the IK though. So that's the IK and FK slider just there. Generally speaking, most people have FK for the arms and IK for the legs, but that one's for another tutorial. In the IK, you've got this bone as well, which you can press G to grab and move it around and distort it, or R to rotate to change the elbow position. And the same is true for the legs. You can rotate that for the knee position, and the end here, you can move the character around. The blue bones in here are tweak bones, they're known as. I hardly use these, but you can sometimes tweak your animations slightly just by moving those around. Down at the bottom here, we've got some more red bones, which is the foot roll. If I roll that, you can roll the ankle like so, and this is the up and down. And it's very clever because it actually keeps the toes on the ground, so it's very good for walk cycles. And then you've got the yellow bones, which is the core in the middle just here. So that's a quick, brief rundown of the bones. Now we need to fix the weights. Now in order to weight paint, we need to be able to see the bones that are actually connected to the specific parts of our character. But these are actually just control bones moving those deformed bones, as they're known, around. What we need to do is scroll up to our bone collections here, and I'll open this up so it's relatively wide so we can see all our bone collections. And you'll notice these special bones down the bottom here. The deformed bones are the ones we need to use for weight painting, so I'll select that, and I'll actually just for now hide the rest of them. So there's the deformed bones, and like I say, that's what we need to weight paint to. Now in order to go to weight painting, we need to go back to object mode.
What did you use for that?
And I'll actually just for now hide the rest of
I
them.
just
So there's the
clicked
deformed
and
bones,
tried, I think.
and like I say, that's what we need to select that, and I'll actually just for now hide the rest of them. So there's the deformed bones, and like I say, that's what we need to weight paint to. Now in order to go to weight painting, we need to go back to object mode. You need to have your rig selected first, and if your character is one object, then you select the entire character, or if it's several objects, you select the specific one you want to change the weights for. Then with that as the active object, you go into weight painting. Now currently I have no bone selected, so this is blue for cold. This is not attached to any bone. If I select a bone with Alt left click, you can see that this head here has no attachment to that bone. But as I come a bit closer, you can see that this bone has a bit of influence on this neck here, and as I go through you can see that this bit here is fully influenced by this bone, but the chin is influenced a little bit by this bone, and you can change your bones by Alt left click. So what we need to do is remove any influence of this bone here and make sure that this bone here has all the influence of the chin. To do that, we paint. So currently the ink coming out of our brush is a weight of 1. So if I start painting, it will paint a weight of 1, and the strength of this brush is 1. Now it's important to understand that the weight is set to 1, so if I change the strength here, it just means if I resize my brush with F that I'm painting and it will slowly change across to red. But if I change the weight to 0, it will slowly start painting towards 0. So the strength is different to the weight, and the easiest way is to have your weight set to 1 and paint the weight in with, let's say, a strength of something like 0.7, let's say, and you can slowly paint these things in if you want to gradually change it. Now I'm going to undo the changes there because there's a slight nuance about Blender. I mentioned that this bone here, Alt left clicking on that bone will select it, has some influence on the chin, and so does this bone. But painting the red in this area will not remove the influence of this bone. In order to remove it, we need to go across to Tool, Options, and Auto Normalize. Normalize means it's got a maximum of 1. That means when I start painting here, it will remove any other influence of any other bones. So I can paint in here until it goes red. And now when I press Alt left click on this, you can see that it's cold for this bone. There's a little bit of influence up there, so I'll just Alt left click on this one and paint. Now I did neglect to say that you can turn on the x-axis symmetry, so you only need to paint on one side, but my object is mirrored, so there was no need for me to do that. I'll just paint this all in. So I've now got the head just being influenced by this bone. So if I go back to object mode, choose my armature, and let's bring up the face bones just there. Oh, actually they're torso bones, aren't they? I deleted the face, you'll see the torso bones there, and it's actually the head bone here is actually part of the torso. And if I rotate this now, you can see the chin is no longer attached to the other parts of the neck, or in fact the torso of this character. So you need to go through, I'll just hide the torso bone there, and we don't need the face bones at all. So you need to go through your character, painting the different parts to the correct bones. So let's do the torso next. So I need to go to object mode for my rig. I can press Control Tab to go across to object mode, choose the torso last, so that's now the active object, Control Tab and across to weight paint. I can now move in and Alt left click on different bones and see the influence. And I think that all looks okay. I think the main problem I was having was with the legs. When I was moving those, when I was moving the arm, some of the leg was moving, and when I moved the leg, some of the opposite leg was moving. So let's go to the leg object and change that. So I need to move to that new object. Unfortunately, there's no quick way to jump to a different object. It's fine if your character is all one object, you don't have to worry, but in my case, they're all separate objects, so I need to go back into object mode, make sure that the rig is selected first, the object I want to weight paint last, Control Tab across to weight paint. And you can select either of these two bones and start weight painting. So I'll have a weight of 1 and a strength of 1 now, and start painting across here. And painting across here. And with the auto normalize, that should get rid of any other influence from other objects. And because these are mirrored, it should have the same effect on the other side. All going well. I'll just quickly do the calf bone and then we'll check whether that's working. So back to object mode, rig first, the lower leg or the calves second, Control Tab across to weight paint, Alt left click to select that bone and paint. And then we can go into object mode, choose the rig and into pose mode. So Control Tab into pose mode. We can hide the deformed bones at this point and then bring back the other bones. We don't need the face bones. And then I can select my character, G to grab, and you can see it's only influencing this leg now. And let's check the other leg is working, and that's working well. Now the very last thing is, and I forgot to mention this, you can actually highlight one particular bone with the star. I forgot all about that functionality, and you can turn the star off. So that's a much quicker way. We can see our deformed bones much quicker that way, and then turn them off like so. So now you've rigged your character, you're all ready to go and start animating and posing and doing all sorts of funny things. As always, if you've got any questions, then comment below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
All right. Hi, we gotta touch that. All right. I ain't touching on that. Let's see. Let's Schuster. I'm not gonna fucking talk about that. This is the song goes. Yeah. You go away for a second. It's not what I wanted. Actually, maybe it is.
And under viewport or display, we can turn on in front
Yeah. Viewport display in front. So now I can bring him back. So I realized that he has leg bones. Actually, no, hold on. Ah, that's why. Did not know that was an option. All right. Let's see.
So we can always see our bones from whatever. To 1. That means if I go to my object data properties, scroll down to the generate rig button. If I generate it now, you can see that.
Yeah. What the fuck do you mean?
That the rig, scroll down to the generate rig button.
The fuck just happened? Okay. Viewport display. List index out of range. What the fuck does that mean? Look at this guy's stuff. He's like, this is like 5 years ago. Okay, so according to this, what happened is I deleted some stuff that I shouldn't have deleted. Joey Carlino, you're up next. I swear I've seen this guy before.
Rigging can get pretty complicated, especially as you get into more advanced topics like constraints and drivers, but maybe you only need something simple, or maybe you're just impatient. So here are some of the basics of rigging for when you want to get started fast. I'll be talking about two main rigging styles. One is a rig that deforms the model, and the second keeps each piece rigid and separated. For the first one, I'm using a character I made, but this will work for anything you want to bend and deform. Press Shift A to add an armature, and if you don't want your bones to be covered by the model, then you can go to Object Data Properties, it looks like a little running person, and turn on In Front. This is also where you can change the shape of your bones and show the names and axes. Then just select the armature, tab into edit mode, and you can select the head or tail of the bone, move them around with G, and extrude with E to place your bones. The thick end is the head, and that's where the bones will pivot from when you're in pose mode. I'll usually do the center of the body and then 1/2 if the model is symmetrical. You can get the bones close to the body by using snapping. I'll usually set it to face project and center. Then when you're moving around, you can hold Control to snap, and you can adjust it from there. This is good for shapes that get a little weird, like you could rig tree branches more easily this way. You can also Shift D to duplicate bones, parent bones with Control P, either connected or keep offset, and you can unparent or disconnect bones with Alt P. If your model is symmetrical, then select all of the bones that aren't in the middle and press Control F2 to batch rename. Set this to bones, this to set name, and suffix. Type $L and press OK. Now all of the bones on the left side of your character have a .L at the end of their names. This is important if you ever want to mirror poses. There's also an auto-naming option that does pretty much the same thing if you right-click. Now with all of those bones still selected, right-click and choose Symmetrize to copy all of the left side bones over to the right. Tab back into object mode, select your model, shift-click your armature, Control P, and choose Armature Deform with automatic weights. And you can do this if your model is multiple objects too. Just select all of the objects and then the armature last. This should add an armature modifier to your objects and also a bunch of vertex groups that have the same names as your bones. This is where the weight painting information is stored. And if at some point you mess up and want to start over, you can remove the armature modifier and delete all of the vertex groups with this arrow. Select the armature, press Ctrl Tab to go into pose mode, and start moving things around to test your rig out. If this gave you a good result, then this could be the end of the video for you. If you got an error that says bone heat weighting failed, that's because your mesh has too many overlapping parts. I'd recommend either remeshing it, doing retopology, or editing it to make parts not overlap. Or you can split the model into multiple objects and try applying automatic weights that way. Another common issue is deformation like this, which is caused by not having enough geometry. Like if you want a cube to bend and be all curly, you can't really do that with only 8 points. So try adding more loop cuts and then applying automatic weights again. It's also pretty likely that you'll get some deformation that looks wrong to you. This is the automatic approach after all, and you can fix this with weight painting. Whoa, don't leave yet. People love to joke about how scary or painful weight painting is, and they're right, but it's not as bad when you know a few tricks. First of all, you can redo automatic weights for your entire model or only for specific bones. Just go into pose mode and select the bones you want, then go back into object mode, select your model, and go into weight paint mode. Go up to weights and assign automatic from bones. Blender will remember what bones you had selected in pose mode and redo those weights. And this is nice if you don't want to start over completely. You can also try moving bones around and reapplying weights to get different results. If you have to do this a lot, I recommend going to Edit and turning Lock Object Modes off. Then you should be able to click on different objects in your scene. You can select from the outliner too, and Blender will remember what mode you were in last, so it's a lot faster. When your armature is in pose mode and your model is in weight paint mode, you should be able to Control click to select bones and view their weights. Shift click for multiple bones, and as usual, A to select everything and Alt A to deselect. Posing works in here too. And before painting, let's talk about settings I recommend using.
Tamboni will save your life someday.
First is under Viewport Overlays, turn on Wireframe. You should use this especially if your model has a subdivision surface modifier on it, because the weights are only going to affect the points on the original mesh, and that's what this is showing. Next, go to Tool Settings, Options, and turn on Auto Normalize. This makes it so when you add weights to one bone, it will take them away from others, and you won't have multiple bones that are trying to control the same area. There's also a symmetry option here that could save you some time. And if you want to paint all the way through your model, then you have to turn on Projected under Fall Off, and turn off Front Faces Only under Advanced Brush Settings. Just be careful and make sure you change it back when you don't want it to work this way. Now you can start painting. Set the weight to decide whether you want to add or remove influence. Blue is 0 or no influence, and red is 1 or complete influence. And use F to change the brush size. You can also turn the strength down to adjust the weights a small amount at a time. If your painting is a little sloppy, then you can smooth it out by going to Weights and choosing Smooth, and then decide whether you want to smooth everything or only the bones you have selected. And when you're done weight painting, make sure to turn Lock Object Modes back on. If you want a more rigid result with no bending, then you'll need a different approach. The first way of doing this is by parenting directly to bones and avoiding weights altogether, but this only works if your model is made of a bunch of separate objects. Select one of your objects, then shift-click the armature and go into Pose mode. Select the bone you want to parent it to, Control P, and choose Bone. Now that object should follow the bone when you move it. This gets pretty annoying when you have to do it over and over again, so you can use this add-on to make the process faster. You can get similar results using weights, and this also works if your model is only one object, unlike the previous way. And this is easier when you make bone names visible under Object Data Properties. Select your model and then your armature, Control P, and parent with empty groups. Then select your model and go into Edit mode. There should be a bunch of vertex groups with the same names as your bones, and if you have a lot of bones, you can click this arrow to search by name. Then all you do is select the vertex group of the bone you want, select the body part by hovering over it and pressing L, make sure the weight is set to 1, and press Assign. And just like before, that piece should now follow the bone. This process is arguably even more annoying when you have a lot of bones, so here's a way that usually gets the weights pretty close. Go into Edit mode, press period, or go up here to change your pivot point to individual origins, then press S and point 1 to scale everything down to 1/10 of the size. Go back into Object mode, select the model and then the armature and parent with automatic weights. Then go back into Edit mode, select everything and scale up by 10 to return everything to its original size. This usually works for most of the model, but depending on the shapes you're using, you might have to clean it up with the more manual method that I showed before. Just make sure to remove the weights on the part you're selecting before you try to assign, otherwise you might get some overlapping weights. And to clear up small weight issues like this, you can try using this quantize option in weight paint mode and set it to 1. That should make all of the weights be either 0 or 1. Let's go into Pose mode and rotate some bones around, then press I to insert a keyframe for the bones that you have selected. Change the pose and press I to insert another keyframe, and now it's animated. And if you named your bones the way I mentioned earlier, then you can copy a pose with Control C and mirror it with Control Shift V. If you want to be able to pose by moving the ends of the limbs, the quick way is by turning on Auto IK under Pose Options. Then when you move your bone, you can use your scroll wheel to change the chain length. This is nice for quick and dirty animations, but for maximum control, you'll need to set up some real inverse kinematic constraints. That's what IK stands for. Select the armature and go into Edit mode, and I'll set this up for the legs. So you can either create a new bone by extruding from the ankle, or you can just use the foot bone. If you make a new bone, make sure Deform is turned off, so when you do the weights, it doesn't actually influence the mesh. Select that bone, press Alt-P, and clear parent. Then go into Pose mode, select the IK bone, shift select the leg bone, press Shift I, and add IK to active bone. You should get a different result now when you move the IK bone, and the yellow bone should have a bone constraint on it. Not a regular constraint, the one with the bone on it. You can also add it from here if you don't use the shortcut Shift I. These options let you change the chain length. For legs, 2 or 3 is usually what you want. If your legs don't bend, try going into Edit mode and moving the joints a little bit in the direction that you want them to bend. And if you want more control over where the bone chain is pointing, then you need a target bone, which is what this spot is for. Do this the same way we added the IK bone. Go into Edit mode and extrude from the knee, and Alt-P to clear the parent. I'll usually name this something with target in the name. Go back to the constraint, select the armature, then select the target bone. If your leg isn't pointing the right way, then change the pole angle. If you set all of this up on half of your model and name it properly with .l or .r at the end, then when you symmetrize, the IK constraints will copy over as well. So save yourself some work and do it from the beginning if you plan to do it at all. This video is supposed to be short, so I left a bunch of topics out like bone roll, drivers, shape keys, and other bone constraints. If you want to learn more about rigging, then it might be time for something a little longer and more in-depth. And for that, you can check out my rigging playlist. If you want the file from this video, you can get that on Patreon. Oh yeah, one last thing. Make sure to move your model by selecting the armature. Otherwise...
Alright. Well. Okay, let me just... and delete. Okay. So that was a lot. That was a lot to intake. That was a lot to input. Okay. I'm sure I was supposed to take all that in at the same time, all at once, but you know, I just wanted to see like what all I went through before I actually like committed to this. Good day. Okay, yeah, no. Right. Scale it down. My idea is to make this like a nice little bendy bound.
If I generated
That's not. Who's the guy I was listening to? There he is.
Rigging can get pretty complicated, especially as you get into more advanced...
Let's see. How do I test this?
Moving things around to test your rig out. Armature, press Ctrl Tab to go into pose mode and start moving.
Control Tab. Tab 2. That's right. I need to actually like let it know what I want it to do. I think.
Moving things around to test your objects too. Just
I need to like give it weight. What?
Select all of the objects and then the armature last. This should add an armature modifier to your objects and also a bunch of vertex groups that have the same names as your bones.
Let's go back to this.
By the model, then you can go to object data properties, it looks like a little running person, and turn on in front. This is also where you can change the shape of your bones and show the names and axes. Then just select the armature, tab into edit mode, and you can select the head or tail of the bone, move them around with G, and extrude with E to place your bones. The thick end is the head, and that's where the bones will pivot from when you're in pose mode. I'll usually do the center of the body and then 1/2 if the model is symmetrical. You can get the bones close to the body by using snapping. I'll usually set it to face symmetrical. You're extrude with E to place your bones. The thick end is the head, and that's where the bones will pivot from when you're in pose mode. I'll usually do the center of the body and then 1/2.
Okay. Let's go and dissolve. Nope. That's see. How did they do that? They like extruded it in a weird way. The fuck? That's not right. It looks cool though. Control A. There you go. Okay.
If the model is symmetrical. You can get the bones close to the body, center of the body, and then head, and that's where the bones will pivot from when you're in pose mode. I'll usually do the center of the body and then 1/2 if the model.
Okay. What the fuck
Model is
is doing?
symmetrical from when you're in pose mode. I'll usually.
What's mouse? Shift plus D.
If the
Oh, okay. I get it now. Uh. Uh. You know what? Shift D R 60. 120. Why is this not doing what it was just doing a second ago? What the fuck? Just delete it. Get this fucking thing out of here. Good Lord. Alright, there we go. Fuck. Are you kidding me? Yeah. It's fucking annoying. Alright. Let's see. It's actually kind of funny. Let's try where this little bobble is. So I'll bring this right down. Okay. And I go up. Okay. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm. Damn it. Hmm. I guess it is still connected. Hmm. Uh, see. See. I'll show you this. Uh, uh, rotational on the x-axis, I think. Whoops! That did not work. Hold on. I'm trying to just imagine bones. How do you do this?
The model is symmetrical. You can get the bones close to the body by using snapping. I'll usually set it to face project and center. Then when you're moving around, you can hold control to snap and you can adjust it from there. This is good for shapes that get a little weird.
Shoot, this thing back. I gotta set this to face project. Can I apply this?
By using snapping. I'll usually set it to face project and center. Then when you're moving around, you can hold control to snap and you can adjust it from there. This is good for shapes that get a little weird, like you could rig tree branches more easily this way. You can also Shift D to duplicate bones, parent bones with Control P, either connected or keep offset, and you can unparent or disconnect bones with Alt P. If your model is symmetrical, then select all of the bones that aren't in the middle and press Control F2 to batch rename. Set this to bones, this to set name, and suffix. Type .L and press OK. Now all of the bones on the left side of your character have a .L.
Okay, Control F2. Oh. That didn't do anything. Okay, whatever.
At the end of their names. This is important if you ever want to mirror poses. There's also an auto-naming option that does pretty much the same thing if you right-click. Now with all of those bones still selected, right-click and choose.
Where the fuck is he finding this stuff? Names. There we go. Fuck.
Much the same thing if you right-click. Now with all of those bones still selected, right-click and choose Symmetrize to copy all of the left.
There we go.
Side bones over to the right. Tap back into object mode, select your model, shift-click your armature, Control P, and choose Armature Deform with automatic weight.
What?
And you can do this if you're Control P and choose Armature Deform with automatic weights. And you
Oh,
can
it's
do
like
this if
a model and armature. Okay.
your model is multiple objects too. Just select all of the objects and then the armature last. This should add an armature modifier to your objects and also a bunch of vertex groups that have the same names as your bones. This is where the weight painting information is stored. And if at some point you mess up and want to start over, you can remove the armature modifier and delete all of the vertex groups with this arrow. Select the armature, press Ctrl Tab to go into pose mode, and start moving things around to test your rig out. If this gave you a good result, then this could be the end of the video for you. If you got
Hehe. That ain't right at all. What the fuck is that thing doing? Oh, it's fucking awesome. Oh, bend it over. That and then set it like that. There you go. Not a problem. I just need to add more vertices or what have you. Yeah. I need to fucking re-weight paint the shit out of this thing, so that's fucked.
got an error that says bone heat weighting failed, that's because your mesh or X, and try applying automatic weights that way. Another common issue is deformation like this, which is caused by not having enough geometry. Like if you want a cube to bend and be all curly, you can't really do that with only 8 points. So try adding more loop cuts and then
tab again, Control R. 4. Three, 2, 2. Three, 2, 2. Alright. So that's this thing going well. I should actually do some
applying automatic weights again. It's also pretty likely that you'll get some deformation that looks wrong to you. This is the automatic approach after all, and you can fix this with weight painting. Whoa, don't leave yet. People love to joke about how scary or painful weight painting is, and they're right, but it's not as bad when you know a few tricks. First of all, you can redo automatic weights for your entire model or only for specific bones. Just go into pose mode and select the bones you want, then go back into object mode, select your model, and go into weight paint mode. Go up to weights and assign automatic from bones. Blender will remember what bones you had selected in pose mode and redo those weights. And this is nice if you don't want to start over completely. You can also try moving bones around and reapplying weights to get different results. If you have to do this a lot, I recommend going to edit and turning lock object modes off. Then you should be able to click on different objects in your scene. You can select from the outliner too, and Blender will remember what mode you were in last, so it's a lot faster. When your armature is in pose mode and your model is in weight paint mode, you should be able to control click to select bones and
you. Okay. And I gotta wait a moment here. What? The fuck?
and view their weights. Shift click for multiple bones, and as usual, A to select is. If you have to do this a lot, I recommend going to edit and weights in the middle and go into weight paint mode. Go up to weights and
Yeah, hold on.
and assign automatic from bones. Those can redo automatic weights for your entire model or only for specific bones.
Just remember how to do
go
this
into
part.
pose mode and select the bones you want, then go back into object mode, select your model, and go into weight paint mode. Go.
Okay. Fuck.
Entire model or only for specific bones, just go into pose mode and select the bones
Pose
you
mode.
want.
That's right. Not the other ones. So if I go to pose mode, then I go back to object mode.
Then go back into object mode, select your model, and go into weight paint mode. Go up to weights and
Wait on. You had to show that on screen.
mode. Go. Go up to weights and assign automatic from bone and go into weight paint mode.
It was control tab for him. Okay, so I do pose. Okay, mode. Ah. Wait, mode. No, that's not true. Fucking hell, my password's on. Oh, there we go. Where the fuck is 07 at? There it is. It's all the way up there for some fucking reason. Okay. There's an option for the weight paint that made it to where it wouldn't overlap.
A to deselect. Posing works in here, and add to control click. When your armature is in pose mode, use A to command user frame. You should use this aspect the points on and turn on auto normalize. This makes it so when you add weight.
So, bam. Auto rise. There we go.
To one bone, it will take them away from others, and you won't have multiple bones that are trying to control the same area. There's also a symmetry option here that could save you some time. And if you want to paint all the way through your model, then you have to turn on projected under.
That's 7, 5. Actually, hold on. Let me try something here. Yeah, I don't really want to do that, honestly.
Up with the more manual method that I showed before. Just make sure to remove the weights on the part you're selecting before you try to assign, otherwise you might get some overlapping weights. And to clear up small weight issues like this, you can try using this quantize option and weight.
To view the weight values of an entire model if a part is let's just hypothetically say, first of all, where the fuck is this mode? There it is, what the hell? Uh... How do I do the opposite of this? There we go. Okay. Or object. Why is bow number 4 still fucking with things then? Oh my gosh, it's the most annoying fucking thing. Okay, now I go back to that close. I need to fucking figure out the shortcuts are for this. That is gonna drive me fucking insane. Oh, oh. I'm gonna save right now. And I'm gonna open up the original blend file. See, I like the new one better. Hey, can shrink his head a little more. I don't know. Let's go to the this, and modify scale specifically this description. Or I could file. Confirm. Don't save. Okay, I could just hide for now. That's not right. It's from yesterday. Where's those pictures that I brought up earlier? Okay. Modifier, add modifier. Oh, fuck yes. Dude, that's fucking awesome. Okay, where's the... It's just straight up. Okay. Grab. Yeah. Do-do. Do-do. Do-do-do. Do-do-do. So
Booleans can be quite awkward when it comes to getting a nice join between two objects with a clean bevel. So what you need is nice topology, but Booleans aren't the best for that. So how can we fix this and solve that problem? So in this tutorial, I'll be talking about how you can use booleans but still end up with clean topology so you get nice clean joins and bevels between objects. And if you like what I do, then do check out the links in the description to my courses, and you'll also find a link to my Substack on there where you can get written tutorials just like this. So I've got a new startup file here. I'm in Blender 4.4.3 and I've got my screencast keys down here. I'm going to select everything in the scene and press delete. So we've got a nice clean slate. Shift A to add, that takes visibility on that low. Reason I want that, and what can is because it's to populate Z and select matching up nicely. That's not too bad. We can join these vertices together here. Here's pretty good as well. So into edit mode so we can see the topology for both here. I'm trying to make things match up. So this point here, it would be good if it matched up with this point here. These are matching up nicely. That's not too bad. We can join these vertices together here. Here's pretty good as well. Here's good, and here's good. So that's great. And this is the main aspect of the idea. You're trying to get your new object and its topology to match up with the old one as best as possible. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, and I'll talk about steps to make it better if it doesn't match up, but that's what you're aiming for. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to go back into object mode. I'm going to press Ctrl A to apply the rotation and the scale. I'll just cancel that, press N on my keyboard, and you can see the transforms. We've got some rotation on our objects and non-uniform scale. That can affect things like the bevel and mirrors if I try and do those in a moment. So with both of them selected, Ctrl A and apply the rotation and scale. So we've got 0 rotation and 1 on our scale. So that's perfect. What I'm also going to do, I'll just clear the side panel with N. I'm going to duplicate these and keep them in exactly the same position. And having the originals will help us with any cleanup that we need to do with the shape if the topologies don't match up. I'll explain more about that later on. So Shift D to duplicate and left click to set them in position. So I've got 2 new duplicates right on top of the other ones. I'll press M and move those to a new collection and call this Originals. And I'll hide those. So we'll come back to those later. This collection I'll call Cool Object. And this is what we'll be using to create our Cool Object.
Well, shit. I don't have enough. Don't save. Fuck. Alright, we're all the way back here. Okay, well, we'll fix this up later. Oh my gosh. Oh, man. I want to make some progress. I mean, I've started rigging them, and I mean, hell, it even works sometimes. Like, if I look at the, the pose mode, I mean, like, half this works. Like, I mean, like, oh, that's not good. Like, wiggle his head back and forth. Just move his arm, ignore the fact the eye's freaking the fuck out. Give a little wave, yay! Don't know why things are connected to the eyes, but they are. We'll figure that out later. Just a little legs wiggle. Stuff like that. Okay. But yeah. Overall, he had a decent enough stream today. It was, I mean, like, it was okay. You know. Didn't get much done. Fiddled around with this a bunch, but I mean, it's what we do day by day. We're slowly making it through. Slowly making it through, but we're making it at least. Point of the fact of the matter though is I'm learning. But that's the important part, is that I'm learning. Excuse me, what the fuck? Oh, excuse me, but the actual fuck? Are these attached to the eyes? What? They're like straight up attached to the eyes. Fuck is that? Oh, let me see if I can figure out where those are connecting. I mean, that actually does work right for the most part. Oh, to turn and stuff, that's good. Side to side, also good. Oh, like, say go lean back, forward. That's correct, pretty much. But for some reason, if I do something like this, it just flicks his eye up. That is not how that works on the antenna at all. They like make like the let's see. I'll check click this. Wait, paint. Like the bow number 4. Yeah, it's doing that. That's not right. There we go, I got that. If I go back to they're probably like I don't know. I was thinking like I should make like a 4th or 5th bone in there maybe. I don't know. I need to get off. I'll fuck around with this some more while I'm off camera and stuff. And see what I can do. I don't know. I said that should be about everything for today. I didn't get much done, but at least we're learning about stuff we can get done. And that's good. I'd love to be able to animate this little guy eventually. See what I can do with that. Anyways. Alrighty. Well, I hope you everyone not just fell. That was an empty cup. Alright. Anyways, I hope everyone has a wonderful night tonight. Should be back again tomorrow, so good night everybody. Bye. Shit. Have I actually been mute this entire time? No, that's not possible, right? Let me talk a bit. Let me see what I can find out here. Let me listen to the channel. Let me see what I can find out here. Let me listen to the channel. No, I haven't been mute. You lying bastard. Or you tell me to turn down volume. I don't fucking know. What is that? Yeah, I haven't been just a minute ago. I mean, I haven't been mute. I've just been, I don't know. Anyways, like I was saying, I'll talk to you all tomorrow. And I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Good night, everybody. Actually, by the way, before I go, that was like the first like new person to actually talk to my chat like ever. So welcome, by the way. Okay, now bye. Bye. Oh, fuck.